Hey everyone, it's Johnny, your independent Scentsy consultant. Welcome back to my channel, and today we're going to be talking about Bring Back My Bar. This is not going to be like the be-all end-all comprehensive per se, but hopefully this will give you an idea of what Bring Back My Bar is, how to vote for it, and how to kind of decide what things you might want to vote for if you choose to help with this. So let's dive right in. It just started today, July 5th. It usually runs for a week, or at least 5 days. So I believe by the end of this week, voting will close. I don't have the exact date on it because I didn't pay attention to my workstation news because it's been a 4th of July weekend and all that sort of stuff. But anyways, let's dive right in. So Bring Back My Bar is a really awesome concept and feature that Scentsy has that allows customers and just generally anyone to experience retired bars that they otherwise may not have been able to do so when they were first released or when they were in circulation in a catalog or in their limited time collection. And how they do that is that any bars that are currently retired that fit certain criteria will appear in a list that you or anyone can go and vote for. And then the top winners, usually the top 20, sometimes more, sometimes they have some extra special bonus ones they add in, but the top 20 generally get brought back in a next or subsequent Bring Back My Bar month, and are allowed to be put in your club or bought in mass quantities for the duration of that calendar month. So usually Bring Back My Bar is January and June. Those are the actual months when you can buy the voted on bars, but then they are voted on in either those same months or the next month, like in this case July, for the next January one. And just like in February, generally, early February, you'll start voting for the ones that will come in June, if not sooner. Okay, so what you can do is if you go to your consultant's website, I have my iPad here, so we'll kind of walk through this together a little bit. So here's my consultant website. If you don't have a consultant, I'd be happy to be yours. Pardon for the ring light. But there's in the middle of mine, it says vote for Bring Back My Bar. All right, so you'll go vote here. And it will bring up this kind of crazy page thing. All right, you see you have some boxes up here. I'm going to try to get the ring light to chill out for a second. There we go. Maybe I'll just turn off the ring light. But you'll see this area where you have like 5 boxes. You have a search bar, and you have like a bunch of bars, and it says like vote underneath. Okay? So what you'll see is alphabetically a selection. In this case, there are 200 options that they have chosen for us to vote from. In past, they've changed the rules in terms of which bars show up here. Generally speaking, if they were voted back in a previous Bring Back My Bar and won it, they are not eligible for the next one. The other thing I've noticed too is more so now than in the past Bring Back My Bars, they've kind of refined and limited the options of what you can pick a little bit more so that we're not getting a whole bunch of weird options in a season where it just seems very strange that we have them. So these are all going to probably feel a little bit more fall wintry, not necessarily, but there might be things that are more likely to be wanted in January. Remember, we're voting in July right now, so when you vote, there's some things to think about in terms of bars. Okay, so let's talk about the nitty-gritty of how you can vote, and then we'll talk about suggestions on what you might want to vote for or what to look out for, and things to consider. So when you go and vote, so we're going to walk through this together. I'll do it. You can vote more than once. Okay, so you don't have to vote just one time and that's it, 5 choices and be all end all. You can vote 5 different choices, there's 5 right there, or you can vote 5 of the same bar. Like if you really wanted, let's say, we'll just use this as an example, Accidentally in Love. You could vote, you push the vote button 5 times, and then all 5 bars will be Accidentally in Love. Is there an advantage to voting for one over the other style? We'll talk about that later. But let's just kind of go through and pretend like I'm going to vote for 5 bars today. Actually, I'm going to do that just right now. So The list is alphabetical. It's not by category. It's not by scent type. Another thing is if you use the search bar, it's to find the name. You cannot search for scent notes. So unless it says it in the name, like for example, I want a cedar scent, there's a bar called Atlas Cedar. That doesn't mean that there aren't bars in here that don't have the word cedar in the name and might have a cedar scent in them, but you can't search for scent notes like you can on our main site. You can only search for names. So just keep that in mind if you type in cedar, like I'll use that as an example right here. You get two options, red cedar and sage and Atlas Cedar. Now that doesn't mean that those are the only ones in all 200 that have a cedar note in them. It's just that those ones have it in the name. So just be aware of that's a subtle difference from our normal website. So don't get too confused with that. All right, if you click, there's a little view details underneath one. So let's say I'm like, oh, Ace, what the hell does Ace smell like? I can push view details and it will tell me, it'll bring up this little screen. Now some of them, especially some of the really old bars, you might actually have to go and do like a Google search to try and find some of the scent notes because, you know, with everything, some of these aren't pulled in there in the database as well as they could have been. But this one says, definitely, I can read, unexpected, tangerine and lavender enrobed in dark chocolate and sweet musky amber. So I might go and say that and say, ooh, this is kind of like a citrus, maybe slightly herbal, rich tone thing with a, like a amber undertone, right? So this might sound really good to me, or it might not sound good. Like maybe I love all the scent notes, but not the tangerine. So maybe I'll like make a list. And I encourage you, like we'll talk about this later, to make a list of ones as you're going through and perusing. All right, so let's just go through. I'm gonna pick 5. One thing I really wanna stress out is look at the entire list of 200. I feel like so many people don't scroll, like we're in the age of like 5-second attention spans, and it's like, oh, those are all the ones there, and those are the ones that we get to pick. There's no more. And it's like, but the list doesn't end at C. So I'm just gonna go in and show you. I'm gonna vote for 5 right now. Let's see which ones I wanna put up here. See what we got. So I'm gonna vote for Dark Harbor. That's an awesome one. I wish I had it in my club. That is, just so you know, that's kaffir lime, blue-green mint with notes of watery ocean lavender and mysterious amber. It's kind of a little bit of like a cologne-y fresh scent from what I remember. Frosted white birch, I have in my club. I absolutely adore. That is probably like, if I could only pick one scent from Scentsy, that was probably the one that got me into Scentsy. Like, there are other ones that are like ride or die for me, but that was the one, Frosted White Birch, that made me lose my marbles for Scentsy. So, I have it in my club. I'm not going to vote for it. And we'll talk a little bit about that later. Let's see. What does this one smell like? I don't know. Maybe Heartbreaker, because that's kind of like what I sometimes am. So I'm going to do that one. That one is described as rich woods, green juniper, and a touch of tobacco conjure up a passion for romantic adventures. So that tells me it's going to be a little bit of like a more masculine, maybe smoky cologne, smoke room vibe. We don't have a whole lot of tobacco-based scents in our collection, especially currently. That's why I kind of like it. I'm going to vote for Lotus Cove. I love that one. It came back a long time ago, and I wish it would come back again. That's a splash of sea air, earthy lavender, and water flowers anchored by rustic driftwood. I love that one. Let's see, what else am I going to vote for this example? Oh, we're definitely going to find, if it's in here, Shaka. Everyone please just put like at least one vote in for Shaka. I need it to come back so it can go in my club forever and ever. Shaka is classically cool, rich sandalwood infused with a splash of bergamot and lime. It is like quintessential sexy man scent, in my opinion, and it's the right balance. It's not like some of them where like they get too citrusy or too heavy woods. Like, I adore this scent, and it needs to come back. And I was gonna say Run to Me for my 5th one, but I think as much as I love that, and I do want that to come back, that's Warm Pink Pepper, Deep Woods, and Bright Cassis. I actually am going to vote for this other one, which I really want in my club, which is Sedona Sunset. And that is, let me read that description for you, just since we're doing this. Just as the setting sun paints the desert sky, flamboyant desert lily and vanilla orchid enliven creamy coconut milk and ethereal jasmine. It is, and from what I remember from the time I had a bar of it, it just keeps lasting and lasting. Like, it's a great performer. Okay, so when you vote for 5, it will bring you down to the bottom here. So you notice all the 5 bars that I selected are in this thing. Oh my gosh, this ring light's gonna drive me nuts. We're gonna turn it off for a second. Okay, so you see my 5 bars, right? You can, at this point, if you don't want one, you can click the little X and it'll disappear. Again, you can vote for all the same or whatever. Then what you're gonna do is you're putting your contact info. So I'll say, my name's Johnny. You don't necessarily have to put in your full name, or if you just want to put initials, you'd be like JR or something. Like, it's more so like, you know, hey. And then they ask for your email. So I'm going to put in one of my myriad emails that I have. That is not my Scentsy email specifically, but I could use my AromasByJR. And then it says there's a little box that you can choose to check or not. I would like to sign up to receive future marketing emails and updates from Scentsy. So you don't have to check this. It's not going to impact your vote. But if you are not signed up and you do want to have announcements of Bring Back My Bar winners or seasonal offerings from Scentsy, it's a great way to know that, you know, without having to hunt down your consultant. Sometimes they'll give you the answers that way. You don't have to do that, but when you are done, then you're going to push the submit. And then it says thank you, and you can offer to share it on Facebook or Twitter or whatever it is down there, right? Okay, now it says voting is limited to once every 5 minutes. So what does that mean? For the duration of this entire voting session, every 5 minutes, you can go on and vote again. For 5 more bars, 5 different bars, 5 of the same of a different bar, 5 of the same bar the entire time, every time you vote. Now, let's talk a little bit about how we can work that in our favor, though. You can go ahead and have multiple browsers open. So if you have, let's say if you're on a Mac, I'll use that as an example, but if you have Safari and Firefox and Chrome and, I don't know, random browser number X, you know, whatever it is, you can actually vote every 5 minutes on each browser. You can't vote in multiple tabs on the same browser because your browser history kind of like does a little caching thing. That's kind of how like browsers work. And it kind of logs that. So like if I'm in this case, I'm in Safari, if I try to vote again, like if I reopen the page, I won't be able to vote again right away in this particular browser. But if I were to go all of a sudden and switch into like Firefox on my iPad, I could easily just vote again. So that's one way where you can actually get more than 5 votes at the same time when you're sitting there at the computer, as opposed to waiting. If you do it on different devices that aren't necessarily all interconnected, I don't know how it would work between phone and laptop and iPad necessarily, but in previous experience, I was able to vote on each device, on each browser, on each device, if that makes sense. So you can get more than 5 votes in every 5 minutes, but if you want to do it the conventional way and you don't want to do all that stuff and bells and whistles, that's one way to do it. Let's talk about voting one of each type of bar versus all the same bar. I don't necessarily know specifically that there's any major difference other than if you vote more times for one bar, it's probably going to get more votes and be more likely to have a chance of being higher up there. That isn't to say you shouldn't spread your votes. So if there are other bars that you are interested in trying, it's not a bad thing. And sometimes if there's enough interest, even if it didn't make the top 20, sometimes Scentsy will go ahead and make them a club exclusive offering. Sometimes they'll just pick some other like runner-up ones or ones that just they want to kind of add into the mix to kind of balance out the offerings. So it's good to have a little bit of a variety, but if you're like rooting for one thing, like I really want Shaka to go back in there, so realistically I should be focusing most of my voting on Shaka. What else can I say? In terms of picking bars. Like if this is your first time or you've never done Bring Back My Bar, or you're like, I don't know what any of these are. I don't really have time to spend hours and hours reading every single description and going through it, and I don't necessarily know very well what it's going to smell like, because sometimes, like, I've a Scentsy consultant, but I'm also a home fragrance person. So like I've loved it long enough that I know when you combine this scent and this scent together, what I can generally expect from that. But what if you don't know that? What if you're just getting into home fragrance and you don't know if sandalwood and lavender smell good together? Like how does, like, even having a scent description might not work. Like, is that a floral scent or is that a woody scent? Like, how do I know? There's no hard and fast rule, and the best thing I can suggest is if something sounds interesting to you, try voting for it. Maybe find other consultants too and see what they're rooting for. Try maybe voting for something that's out of your comfort zone even. Like maybe you're like, well, you know, like if you vote for any of these, you're not committing to paying for them. That's the thing, right? You're voting for a chance for them to return in the mix, and then if they do and you're interested, you can purchase them or add them to your club, right? So there really isn't a hard and fast way to pick. I will try and go through and see if there are things that sound like they're a cologne scent or a woodsy scent or sounds fresh to me. You know, like there's keywords, like if there's like an oceany scent or watery component to something, maybe it's going to be a little bit more fresh. If there's some like keyword of wood in the description or in the name, it's more likely going to be a scent that I might be interested in. Not always, but there's a higher chance. Maybe for you, it's bakery. So you might look for things that cookie, cake, sweets, candy, you know, different words. If you like fruits, maybe look for things that have fruit notes, either in the name or the description. Another way to think about it too is by, and this is not a hard and fast vote, you know, rule, but think of things by color too. If you think about our catalog, generally things that are in the woodsy category tend to have a deeper sort of color. So if you don't have time to read all the scent descriptions, looking at the color of the bar can sometimes indicate an idea of how deep the scent is going to be. Like a deep blue scent might be more woodsy or deeper fresh or something like that. Or it might be a blueberry, right? A scent that is green might have more of that earthy, naturey, not necessarily floral, but more of that green vibe. A scent that is, the color is orange, there's a good chance, not necessarily, but there might be some sort of citrus note to it. Same with yellow. With reds and pinks, a lot of times, they might be more in the fruity side of things, or perhaps floral. So that's not a hard and fast rule, but if you're really just at a loss, those are some ways to kind of think about it. Like maybe if the bar is a light purple, there might be a chance it might be lavender or lilac or a perfumey or floral sort of scent, right? It's not a guarantee, but these are ways to kind of navigate, because 200 bars, you know, like I might spend time looking through every single scent description, but you might not want to, or you might not have time to. Another thing is maybe if you found a bar and the name shows up in here and it's one from a collection that you remember, that you loved and either didn't put in your club or want more of now, or, you know, kicking yourself, that's another reason to do that. But there's a you know, two sides to that coin. So if you are going to do that and you are lucky enough to get that bar back, put it in your club, create a Scentsy club. I don't know what the big anti-subscription service club thing people sometimes have is. I get it. Like, we don't always want to commit to something that's perpetual. You can change the frequency. You can skip, you know, shipments if you really need to. You can do it once every 3 months. So that's like 4 shipments a year. You're not committed to having like a minimum order requirement. You know, some places are like a minimum order of 30 at least, or 50 or 100 or whatever. Like, we don't have that. You could have literally like 1 bar in your club. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it because you are paying for shipping and handling and tax, but again, like, try it. It's a good way, because I see so many people who will say, oh, I love this bar, and then they'll get some, and then they'll run out of it and be like, oh, can I have some more? And I'm like, I warned you, like, it was a limited time, and I suggested you create a club if you really love the scent, and then they kick themselves, you know, and then sometimes it shows up again, sometimes it doesn't. So if you do find something, and this, I guess, kind of extends beyond Bring Back My Bar, but if you do find a scent that you really love, you know, that really just brings you that much joy, really consider a Scentsy club. You know, it's almost like a set it and forget it in some senses, and then you can update or modify as needed, but do that. And this is somehow turned into a Scentsy club video on top of Bring Back My Bar. But back to the Bring Back My Bar. Once all the voting has closed, the votes are tallied, and then usually within the next undiscernible amount of time, it's not usually that long, consultants will get an idea of what the bar, like the winning bars were. That doesn't mean that they might not add a surprise in there at some point down the road, right before release, but those will most likely then be the bars, barring some sort of like bizarre manufacturing, like they couldn't get the oils or something, which I don't think in history they've ever had to really do for Bring Back My Bar yet, but it is a possibility. And then they'll be available in the next Bring Back My Bar, which will be months later. All right, what else can I say about Bring Back My Bar? Let's see if we can vote again. So I pushed vote, and then look what happens. This is a good, just to show you what I'm talking about. So you can only vote every 5 minutes. The browser will know, and so like if you try to vote again on the same browser, it'll be like, oh, thank you so much for playing, but no, you have to wait. So again, if you want to sort of cheese the system, you may want to have multiple browsers open. The other thing is, I didn't mention earlier, anyone can vote. Consultants can vote, you as the customer can vote, your random friend who doesn't care about home fragrance can vote for you. Like maybe you have a kid who is like obsessed with on their computer all the time, and just be like, yo, put a browser open and every 5 minutes vote for me. Like, have someone else help you with that. Obviously, the more votes for a bar, the more likely it's going to be in the top 20. They do also say, and I wish the 5 minutes would be up so I could show you. I should just switch browsers. But you will start seeing, as the voting commences through the week, they will usually have a little like icon next to the bars that are top 20 in the current moment. Now, that shifts, and it can shift dramatically. So just because something is in the top 20, like right now, or in 2 hours from now, in another hour or 10 minutes or 5 minutes even, it may not be. And the list doesn't update those top 20 instantaneously. What I've noticed from my history experience with this, like the website does not refresh like every second that like something shifts, but it does change periodically. So it's good to kind of keep an eye on it and monitor, especially if you're really trying to vie for one and it's currently in a top 20 position. That's not a good time to just get, you know, complacent and go, oh, well then it's for sure going to be in there, because tomorrow there may be 20 different bars up there. I do seem to find that like when the default comes in, the top 20, at least in previous Bring Back My Bars, were literally just the first 20 bars listed alphabetically. And a lot of people would get confused, like, why is everyone just voting in all the A's? They're not. But like I mentioned earlier, you need to make sure you're scrolling down and seeing all the bar options, because otherwise we get like 5 things from the A category, 6 things from the B category, and like another half dozen from C, and oh, then there's the one random person who actually like had a whole flock of people voting for the one in like vanilla, you know, down in V. So look at the list, don't just click. I also don't think, if you don't like a bar, especially one that's in the top 20, I feel like this just kind of goes unspoken, but don't vote for it. If you don't like it, it doesn't sound good to you, don't vote for it. Like, regardless if I'm asking you to, or someone else is suggesting it, like, if it just doesn't appeal to you, you are not required to vote for it. Like, I want Shaka to get in. You might find that sandalwood, bergamot, splash of lime, whatever mix sounds repulsive, and that's fine. Just don't vote for it. It's okay. Like, I won't be upset about it. You know, I've been through many a bring back my bar, and sometimes there have been pleasant surprises, and then sometimes I've been like, oh look, well there's fewer things I have to worry about considering putting in my club this time around. Darn, my wallet is so upset with me. But that's what it is. So it's a fun thing, and it's something that Scentsy does that most companies, to my knowledge, do not do. At least not like the big, more established companies. I'm not talking about independent vendors. I do know that Sensationals or Better Homes and Gardens started a similar sort of concept of bringing back retired fragrances for different, like, seasonally, like every year, like bring back some they call it blast from the past. That is great, but it's not a user voted, to my knowledge. It's what the company kind of decides, so there's no like voting session or anything like that, where here it is a bit more hands-on. Like, we know how many votes there were and where the standings are. So I think it's pretty cool. It's something that, at least as of yet to my knowledge, it's fairly unique to Scentsy, and it gives a chance for bars to come back from the past that otherwise might just be lost recipes in the fabric of time. So hopefully this was helpful. This is it did start today, so you can go ahead and tally. That's why we're kind of doing it together. You know, and I encourage you to try it if you want. You're not required to do it, but it is kind of fun, and who knows, maybe one of the bars that you're interested in shows up again, and you could be like, I remember voting for that, or looking at it on the list and kind of being interested in it, right? So hopefully this is helpful. I'll stop prattling because this is an awfully long video about just babbling about Bring Back My Bar. But on a closing note, as you're going through it, if you do decide to go through and read all the different scents and fragrances, keep like a memo pad or like a sticky note with you to write down some of the names of scents, because once you get through a lot of them, you kind of forget which ones you liked originally. I did that the first time, and I was like, oh my god, this sounds great. Oh my gosh, this sounds great. Oh my gosh, this sounds great. And like halfway through the list, I was like, what were the ones that I liked? So that might be my only other tip. Like, if something sounds good, make a note of it. And maybe it doesn't come back in this Bring Back My Bar, but that could also be something to think about. Hey, I kind of want to hope this one comes back, because sometimes they will show up in limited time offerings, even if they don't make Bring Back My Bar. So prime example of that, business casual. I wanted that in my club for the longest time. I don't remember it being in a Bring Back My Bar, to my knowledge, when I was, or since I've been a consultant, but it was in the Father's Day collection just a month or so ago, right? So keep that in mind. Some bars will just show up randomly. They're not always just new ones that are brought into new offerings that we have, especially if they were ones that were well received at the time. So maybe that's a way to go. Like, who knows, maybe Shaka will be released in a random fall collection one time for no other reason, but it fits the mood or the vibe, and then I won't even need to vote for it for Bring Back My Bar. But just be aware of that. So it's good to familiarize yourself with the many bars that Scentsy has created at one point or another. Thank you all for listening to this. Hopefully it was informative. Good luck on your Bring Back My Bar voting. If you want to vote for stuff that I have done in the video, or if you have suggestions on actual bars, feel free to put them in the comments, or if you want me to give you a couple to suggest. I mean, there was the 5 that I voted for today, but there are plenty that I like. Hopefully this is helpful. Please consider subscribing if you're new here, and give it a thumbs up if this was helpful as well. And I will see you guys in our next video. Have a great Tuesday. I hope you all had a wonderful 4th of July, and see you later. Bye.